Hi, and welcome to this training video for AHSO. This is an AHSO video production, copyrighted. Today's topic is illegal formations, foul code ILF. And what we're going to talk about today is particularly wideouts and their position in relation to illegal formations and their special relationship with tight ends. How we don't want to be too technical on the formation when we're dealing with a wideout, and how we don't want to be technical at all when we're dealing with trips, but how we're going to be pretty technical when we have a tight end, because it's important the defense is going to account for the tight end being eligible based on the position of those wideouts. We'll also go over the philosophies for line of scrimmage officials, and these are approved philosophies for Arkansas high school football officials. Let's take a look at the philosophies under line of scrimmage, and we're going to start with number 3. This has to do with wideouts. Don't be too technical on an offensive player who's a wide receiver or slot back in determining if he is off the line of scrimmage. When in question, it is not a foul. What we want to talk about is wideouts. Let's give them a yard. If they're within a yard of the line of scrimmage, then we want to call that player either on or off the line of scrimmage, whatever we need to make the formation legal.
There's a flag down on the play. The tackle in the secondary was made by Ryan Shaw, number 10. Illegal formation by the offense. 6 men on the line of scrimmage. 5-yard penalty from the previous spot. Repeat third down.
Let's talk about things we can already agree on. The ball is on the 36-yard line. The head linesman is standing at the top of the screen between the 36 and the 37. Line judge, don't know why he's out on the field, but we'd want to correct that mechanic right now by backing him up onto the sideline. But the ball is going to be snapped at the 36. Now let's take a look at this wide receiver at the top of the formation. He is at the 37. So he is within 1 yard of the line of scrimmage. Now if we want to look at this formation and count the players, we can tell there's 11 in the formation, and with the quarterback and shotgun, the 2 slot receivers, and the wide out there, we've got 5 players in the backfield if we count this wide out as being in the backfield. But if we go with our philosophies, now we can make this player at the top of the screen as being on the line of scrimmage because he is within a yard. Look, the defense is not playing press coverage, so there's no advantage for him being that yard off. As a matter of fact, it's a disadvantage for him. So no need to drop a flag. They're going to cover him. Let's make this a legal formation, not being too technical with a wideout because there is no tight end involved. All right, moving right along, we're headed now toward pass interference. And what we're going to do in this segment is talk about not only the requirements to have pass interference, but we're also going to break down the 2 different types of pass interferences, offensive pass interference and defensive pass interference. And we're going to go through the different categories. Let's start with defensive pass interference, and there are 7 categories that we put into defensive pass interference. It's important that you be familiar with these categories, and that when you have plays that are potential defensive pass interference, that you're able to put the conduct of the defense into one of these 7 categories. If you cannot put it into one of these 7 categories, you do not have defensive pass interference. It's also important that we understand the verbiage here because the coaches speak this language, and if we can give them this language on the sidelines when we have these plays, not only will it make them easier to understand what we're talking about, but it'll also give them some confidence that we saw the foul and that we were fully aware of exactly what it was and what impact it had on the play. All right, now let's go through the categories. Number 1 is not playing the ball. Early contact by defenders not playing the ball is defensive pass interference, provided the other requirements of DPI have been met, regardless of how deep the pass is thrown to the receiver. Our second category is playing through the back. This is playing through the back of a receiver in an attempt to make a play on the ball. Our third category, grabbing and restricting. This is grabbing and restricting a receiver's arm or body in such a manner that restricts his opportunity to catch a pass. Our fourth category is armbar. This is done by extending an arm across the body of a receiver, thus restricting his ability to catch a pass, regardless of the fact of whether or not the defender is looking for the ball. Number 5 is the cutoff. Cutting off or riding the receiver out of the path of the ball by making contact with him without playing the ball. Number 6 is hooking and restricting. Hooking and restricting a receiver is an attempt to get to the ball in such a manner that causes the receiver's body to turn prior to the ball arriving. Our final category is face guarding, and this rule is exclusive to high school football. This is not a foul in the NCAA or the NFL. And I would like to explain this one a little bit, because face guarding is not reaching up and trying to bat the ball away and in that attempt obstructing the vision of the offensive player. Face guarding is when the defender uses his hands to block the field of vision for the sole purpose of restricting the offensive player's ability to see the ball in flight and make a play. These are the 7 categories of defensive pass interference. Now remember, officials, pass interference occurs from about the chin to the waistband. If you will concentrate and focus into this area, you will see the actions that occur during pass interference that warrant a penalty flag. So focus on that area, concentrate, see all of the action, know who your keys are, and know these categories, and you'll be well on your way to successfully officiating the foul of defensive pass interference. The NFL and the NCAA are both placing more emphasis on correctly officiating offensive pass interference. That influence is trickling down to the high school game, and we're going to have to do a better job of officiating these plays. To do so, we'll review the categories of offensive pass interference. I also think that it's important to point out that coaches, by and large, don't teach defensive pass interference. Normally it occurs as the defender competes for an opportunity to catch the ball, or he's beaten so badly he cheats to keep a big play from occurring. But offensive pass interference is taught at every level of football. These rub or pick plays are in the playbooks, and coaches work on them in practice. The reason coaches do this is because we do a poor job of calling these fouls. The first one is creating separation. A player commits the foul of offensive pass interference when he initiates contact with the defender by shoving or pushing off, thus creating separation in an attempt to catch a pass. The second category we want to talk about is driving through. Offensive pass interference occurs when an offensive player drives through a defender who has established a position on the field. The third and most common form of offensive pass interference is for blocking downfield. And this is pretty self-explanatory. This often occurs when the quarterback scrambles or when the ball is thrown to another area of the field. Now, we do not want offensive pass interference called for blocking downfield when the quarterback throws a dump-off pass or throws the ball in or near the line of scrimmage. We're going to allow the neutral zone to expand by 1 yard. Don't be too technical, but it is important for the umpires to move up in a 5-man crew and know where the line of scrimmage is, and then make a ruling each time the ball is thrown near the line of scrimmage, whether the ball was thrown behind or beyond the neutral zone expanded. Now, there are several requirements to have any type of pass interference. Let's take a look at now and talk about some of those requirements. The first requirement is simply a legal forward pass. The second requirement is that legal forward pass cross the neutral zone expanded. And then finally, the potential offensive or defensive pass interference must occur before the ball has been touched by a player or an official. Now let's talk about how some of these 3 elements might be absent from the play. The first one, a legal forward pass. You could escape this requirement if the offense were to throw a second forward pass, which would be an illegal forward pass, or if the defense were to throw a forward pass after they gained possession. In either of these cases, you could not have pass interference. Now let's talk about the second element, the ball thrown beyond the neutral zone expanded. Some ways that this would not occur would be if the offense were to throw some type of a little bubble screen or a pass out into the flat and the ball not reach the line of scrimmage or be at the line of scrimmage. In either of these cases, you could not have offensive pass interference or defensive pass interference. Again, the ball must cross the neutral zone expanded. And the third element, if the ball were to be tipped coming out of the passer's hand or at the line of scrimmage or tipped anywhere on the field, if the foul occurred after that point, you could not have pass interference because the ball has been touched by a player or an official. Important to remember to give the tip signal for the covering official. This will help the officials downfield know that the ball has been tipped, so the requirements for offensive and defensive pass interference are off if the action occurred after the ball was tipped. All right, we've had a chance to talk about offensive and defensive pass interference. I've got some defensive pass interference plays. I'd like to thank George Demetrio for getting these to me. But let's take a look at these plays and see this action that constitutes defensive pass interference. All right, keep your eye on this player right here. Give you a couple of looks at it here in slow motion. Definitely we're going to put this in the category of playing through the back. Drives through the offensive player and takes him completely out of the play. Here's another one. Early contact, not playing the ball or playing through the back, either one. Not really trying to go for the ball. He's really just hitting this defender. See, he's already on to the offensive player there, and no chance really to go up and get that ball. Early contact, not playing the ball, or playing through the back, either one of those. That will go into two different categories. Notice the people on the sideline here at the bottom of the screen. I got a big problem with this play already. People are way too close to the sideline. Oh, there's a takedown. That's a grab and restrict. Give you a couple looks at it here. I like when their flags go back in their pockets like that. There's a still shot there. You can see that the offensive player's already going to the ground. Defensive guy's wrapped up. Grab and restrict. Good call for defensive pass interference. You know, you wish they were all this easy. This is going to be on the far sideline. Watch this early contact. Right there. Tell me what you think, too, about these jackets these guys are wearing. Film's a little dated here, but that's certainly early contact. It's a good time to point out because you're gonna see the coach is going to be screaming, "It's not catchable, not catchable." Catchable balls are not a requirement in the National Federation of High Schools. We don't have that rule. All right, those are our plays this week for offensive and defensive pass interference. I'm going to dig up some offensive pass interference video and get that to you here in the coming weeks, so keep your eye out for that. Also, we talked about illegal formations, not being too technical, especially on wideouts. We're just going to be talking about a blade of grass for those players to have separation, but when a tight end is involved, we want to have a discernible separation in the formation. If you have any questions, don't hesitate to drop me an email. It's toddallen65@me.com. For the Arkansas Association of High School Officials, till next week, thanks for watching.